What is going on, you guys? My name is Rayge, and we are back today to talk about the Dark Dimension 6 gear requirement unlocking the best character right now in the game, which is Super Skrull. I don't see this wide and broadly topic actually getting discussed too often, so I do want to clarify that, and especially if you are new to the game or transitioning from mid-game to a newer end-game, looking to partake in this stage in the next 6 months to a year, this is definitely a video that's going to help provide you some insight and give you some tips and tricks as well. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. First and foremost, guys, I want to point out this amazing tool that's called the Dark Dimension 6 Planner. This was added in 2023 and it has completely changed the way we can plan in-game, not just the UI integration with MarvelStrikeForce.com, but as well giving us an opportunity to actually plan ahead and manage our roster in terms of understanding what do we need, which characters actually work, their gear costs, and so forth. This tool does it all. So how can you access this tool? It's absolutely amazing. You head over to MarvelStrikeForce.com. Secondly, you create an account if you haven't already, log in, click on your profile, and then click on roster as shown in the arrow there. And then finally, you do want to sync your roster so that way it does link up to your in-game roster, and that way it gives you the most up-to-date information. I know sometimes folks don't do this, and that's why they can see a differential or variance between, the gear or inventory differences that they have in-game versus what they have on the website. After doing so, then you can finally click on number 4, which is on the bottom left there, the Dark Dimension Planner, which is going to give you an option to select the different characters and kind of how you're going to be able to progress to the Dark Dimensions. And keep in mind, guys, this is not just for Dark Dimension 6. This is all the way from Dark Dimension 2 to Dark Dimension 6. So, I mean, there's going to be an opportunity here to reselect that depending on what your goal is. But let's first talk about why this is such a great tool. First and foremost, depending on the setting that you're choosing, in this case right now it's Dark Dimension 6, you can see actually how it's going to be laid out, right? We start things off with any traits non-classified, then it's global, cosmic, city, non-horseman legendary, and then legendary or apocalypse. So it gives you a good kind of reference and preview of what to expect in terms of the nodes, but as well you can start kind of slotting in some characters that you want to see. But what I really like about this is that after you select your characters, which is at the very bottom, it's going to actually populate your total materials required in terms of what's going to be missing in your account and what should you be grinding for, so that way you can get a heads up, right? I really wanted to understand this true cost, hence the video. Creating a new account here, I wanted to understand, if we had nothing to begin with, what is the true teal gear cost to bring in all these characters up to the Dark Dimension 6 and beyond. So first and foremost, guys, keep in mind this is just a standard template, but I selected some of the best characters right now in the game, and I just wanted to talk about my methodology here, but as well why I did what I did. So first and foremost, many of these characters are in the meta currently at the time of recording, so they have a lot of value outside of just Dark Dimension. You kind of want to be planning like that because you don't want a one and done character where you're simply just bringing them into Dark Dimension and then that's it, right? That's the investment and you can't really utilize them anywhere else. The second thing that you might have noticed here is at the very top, right? Oh, sorry. It is at the very top here, right? If you noticed here, from left to right, it's bio, mutant, mystic, skill, and tech characters, and it's well balanced. We have 4, 4, 4, 4, 5. This is kind of the route you want to go because each and every character has their own main trait, and the thing is that if you focus on too many traits on one specific type, that could very well put you over in terms of the gear requirements. So that's why we want to balance it out. There's a lot of little nuances that maybe newer players, mid-player folks may not be aware of, which is we have to balance the traits so that way you're going to have consistent gear progression. The other thing to be mindful of is it doesn't say on here, but you do need to understand what their uniques are. Thankfully, the total materials required is going to populate what you do need out of all these characters. And again, guys, this is just a blanket template, but these are some of the best characters and teams that can get it done. If you were to go with the characters shown on screen here, it's close to a perfect situation, right? Each and every section would likely take less than 10 attacks for each of the nodes, respectively, because these are some of the best characters in the game. But as well, I mixed and matched some cheaper characters like Black Widow, with heavier characters like Quicksilver. We got, Vulture being super cheap, Robbie Reyes being moderate, Miss Marvel Hardlight being cheap. So there's a good mixture here, and as well factoring in kind of what's going to be happening in the future here as well in terms of the Mystic change meta. Characters that likely will have strong value in Dark Dimension 7 as well. I think this is a pretty good standard template, and the nice thing about this one is that it is well balanced, like I said, in the traits, but as well there's that mixture of expensive and cheap characters that kind of help offset each other. After I funneled this in, I really wanted to, I was getting excited here to see, because I was using a new account anyways, right? We would have no teal gear. How is this going to look like now in the total materials required? and the results are pretty shocking, and that's kind of what has pushed me to making this video, because I wanted to bring this for your guys' awareness, as well as folks that haven't even started in Dark Dimension and started obtaining teal gear. Well, this is how it's going to be looking like, guys. So this is the amount of teal gear that's required. Absolutely astronomical. There's a lot of information to unfold here. Mixture of obviously catalysts. We have the uniques, mini uniques, the traded specific trait items that you have to be working for. And rest assured, guys, this is material that you will be building up over time. A big source of it is going to be coming from the Doom and Incursion raids. They've done a much better job in terms of just releasing those materials. But as you can see, there's a lot of information to unfold here, and it can be pretty overwhelming, especially if you haven't started yet. So that is why this Dark Dimension 6 is arguably one of the hardest modes that we have seen in the game to date, to just be able to participate. It's not because it's difficult, but it's just getting to that point where you're bringing, 20 characters up to gear tier 18 and having the necessary gold and as well the materials here. So this is a lot of information to dissect. I think many of these materials and resources you will be getting over time, but I wanted to take a step further. I wanted to say, hey, assuming we're going to be getting what we're getting going through the day-to-day, what is going to be the true pinch point here? Like, what is actually going to be a true bottleneck if I can dissect this information and concise it a little bit better? So I did do that. I eliminated the information that you likely will be getting, the resources you'll be getting over time. And it did pinpoint me to a couple of standout items here, which is what I want to talk about, but as well bring to your guys' attention, so that way you are aware from the get-go, even before the preparation and thinking about Dark Dimension 6. These are the true bottlenecks that can potentially constrain you outside of gold from a resource standpoint, right? So as you can see, a lot of those resources eliminated over time, and it's really come down to two specific areas. It's the catalysts that are going to be coming from leveling characters all the way from 16 to gear tier 18, and then we also have some pretty heavily uniques that are actually getting factored in here just due to the meta characters I've selected. But as well, like I said, I believe some of these additions were very strong. You can obviously swap them out, but we're going to talk about that for a little bit here. So first and foremost, guys, the catalyst is definitely a very top topic of contention here, just because of the fact that I did not realize how much catalyst you actually need. So you can see the ratio is all over the place, right? We have 28,000 plus of the basic catalysts and 11k each of the focus and health. And then it drops a little bit for the damage, but then armor and resistance have, terrible ratios. They should be more consistent with each other, but it's not. There's definitely an emphasis on the focus and health catalysts, and then, like I said, a little bit of the damage. But these are the main four you should be focusing on, guys. So I mean, even when you're preparing and taking a look, and keep in mind, you can build 5 characters at a time for each section, but these are going to be heavy resource constraints, because especially if you're planning to bring in Apocalypse himself, which I did as well in my original run. I didn't bring up the big boy Apocalypse because I actually did not have enough catalysts to bring up my other 23 characters to gear tier 17 and level 90. That's the requirement to unlock big Apocalypse, right? So just something to be mindful of. You need resources and materials for those horseman teams as well before even factoring this in, which is obviously here for Dark Dimension 6. So something to be mindful of. Next up here, we got the unique situation going on here, and it looks like there's a big 3 coming, but a couple of them we can actually mitigate. So it's Osmium, Miasma, and Shield. So for the Osmium, Val, Gambit, Nova, I mean, yes, I brought in 3 characters that I ideally may not have been considered selected. Like, you can definitely get away with just Val and Nova, or Val and Gambit. I think Val is a must-have, so definitely her place is cemented. Gambit and Nova may not be the best options, respectively, if you want to save on Osmium. Also, Nightcrawler shares the same, right? So definitely Morgan Le Fay is no longer going to be an option in the future here, just because of this constraint here, but just something to be mindful of. Val is pretty much the only lock. Gambit and Nova are truly essential if you choose to have that luxury on top of these teams. You don't need to go that route. Miasma, Robbie Riaz is pretty much a lock for the city section. Dormammu was a potential maybe, but he can actually cruise you through the cosmic section. Mind you, Super Skrull is probably going to replace the 5th character in cosmic section afterwards. So just something to be mindful of. You don't need Dormammu, but I do want to factor that in, so that way you guys can see that that pinch there for the uniques. And as well, Dormammu being a mythic character in the future may play a factor, so hence why I wanted to include him. And then lastly, we do have Kestrel and Black Widow here sharing the same shield gear. I really actually like Black Widow and Kestrel for my run, so and they're both actually pretty reasonably cheap, so I can definitely see both these characters being my Dark Dimension 7 run for sure. But again, costing 130 uniques here to bring them from 16 to 18, so just something to be mindful of, guys. These are constraints obviously that you can set upon yourself if you're managing resources correctly, but that's kind of what stood out to me after reviewing all the resources. Definitely something to be mindful of for sure. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed this quick recap here of what the total materials resources are going to be required for Dark Dimension. But again, I just want to state that regardless of where you are in the game, just take your time. This is an end game stage here. Even following all of the end game content for PvE, this is top notch, because I mean, this is the one that's going to ultimately unlock you the best character in the game at the time of recording. So obviously it's not something that you can do quickly, and even if you do, you don't want to be rushing the resources as I just shown you with the heavy cost required, right? Whether or not you want to focus on quality over quantity is completely up to you, but I do want to stress that you have to probably mix in that value in terms of the higher expensive characters with low. Obviously some of the best characters are the most expensive, but you can't be doing that in this mode. And by the time you do that with the resources, it may be already too late and the Super Skrull is out of the meta. So just something to be mindful of. You can always do quality over quantity, but make sure you balance that. That's why I did that approach in terms of selecting some mixture of characters there. And guys, I just also want to point out, it's not just gold, remember, right? Catalysts and uniques are big, so make sure you guys are watching for this in the supply store. Obviously, partaking in the Doom incursion rates is always going to help over time, but hopefully this sets you guys up and something to be mindful of and watching out for, especially if you're pushing forward from Dark Dimension 4 and beyond. And again, that Dark Dimension planner works not just in Dark Dimension 6, guys. It works in all of the Dark Dimension, so feel free to use this planner. It's an amazing resource and definitely going to set you right up in terms of the future Dark Dimensions as well. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you think in the comments below if you agree or disagree. Definitely some big bottlenecks for sure, but I promise you, with every end game stage, the rewards are always worth it. I've been loving Super Skrull on my account, and he has completely changed the way I play. So do appreciate your guys' time. Thank you as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.